Alrighty, welcome, welcome. So happy to see lovely, friendly faces here, and for everybody watching the recording, welcome as well. This is our workshop all about sustainable living simplified, and we will go ahead and just dive right on in. Thank you for joining me today, especially those beauties here live and Francis who just jumped in as well. Promoting a healthy lifestyle is definitely a passion of mine, and I know that it's such a great way to do it when you can do it in harmony with the environment too. So there's lots of tips. If you do have a pen and paper handy, that might be nice just to write some things down. This was an interesting / depressing article about the world's trash crisis and why so many Americans are oblivious. Thank you for not being one of them. Just the fact that you showed up and that you're watching this shows that you care. Leslie, thank you for being here. Leslie just joined and she's one of the most inspiring people who has gotten me into sustainability, so I'm glad that you are here. Who generates the most waste? Who do you think? What country in the world? Anybody have any guesses? We do. We're number one. Yeah, we produce the most waste out of any country in the world. Germany, Japan, China, Brazil are the other top 5, but America is number 1. 624,700 metric tons of waste per day. That's a lot. That's a lot. And we all have a part in that, right? So again, we'll be talking about lots of tips to reduce our personal impact, which of course then spreads out to our family and our community. This is a not so lovely picture of a landfill. I've thought of myself as like a pretty green, friendly person, eco-minded, sustainable in certain ways, but it really hit home for me when I lived in Santa Cruz and we were moving out of the home that we were living in there, and we had to take some stuff to the dump. So we drove to the dump, and it was the first time that I had ever seen a landfill, and it was just like shocked me. It was so depressing. And of course I've been making trash my entire life, but actually seeing this huge hole be buried in Mother Earth, and then there are literally tractors pushing trash into it, I like totally blew my mind. Has anybody who's here live ever been to a landfill? You can just raise your hand or chat. Yeah, not the most fun place to be, right? Definitely a little, for me, it was just depressing. It was like sheer shock. The smell, the humidity rising from the trash. It just put a visual to it, right? So now I'm more mindful about the trash that I do make, and I'm still, not perfect, but all the little things that I'll be sharing today can definitely add up to big results for ourselves and for the earth. Just some more pictures to bring it home for those of us who may have not been to a landfill anytime soon. It's all of our trash, right? Like many of us probably take a trash bag out of our home once a week, maybe once a day, depending on our own sustainability habits and also the size of our family and things like that. But it all goes somewhere, right? It all goes somewhere. It's like it just goes away, but it actually goes somewhere. Maybe it gets shipped to another country, or some of it gets burned. Some of it does get recycled. A lot of it just gets buried in the earth, which again, like the first time that I saw that, I couldn't even imagine. I was like, I'm sure that our children in the next 7 generations are going to be paying for that, right? So let's see what we can do to help with that. Some interesting infographics. This is a chart of America and the states that produce the most waste. And when I saw this, I was really surprised because I thought like, oh, California, we're pretty eco-friendly, right? Like hippie revolution, all of those good things kind of generated here, but 335 tons of trash per person. So you can see a lot of the states are in the green, more towards the 4.1 end, but for some reason in California, we're at 35 per person. So whatever reason it is for us, I know many of us joining this call are in California, so just to highlight that we all have lots of responsibility here. This is a generation of products in the US. It's an interesting graph because it shows from 1960 until 2014. It wasn't updated to today, but we can see that for 1, the amount of trash is growing, right? And then for 2, certain wastes have come down. Like maybe we're a little bit more mindful of food waste, but that's still on a rise. Containers and packaging are, of course, growing. Yard trimmings, things like composting at home, right? A lot of people are starting to do stuff like that, which is helping with the overall waste. This is an interesting one too that showed the different types of waste. So much of the waste in our country is food, which I find particularly sad. This workshop, by the way, isn't the most uplifting one. A number of you have been to a few of my different workshops, but this one is like keeping it good and also keeping it real, that there's big problems and we all have a responsibility to play. But with food specifically, we know that there's so many people who are starving and hungry and undernourished, malnourished in the world, but so much food just gets tossed, and it's really on like the systemic level. We can go into like the politics and what they're doing to subsidize certain foods, but even just little things that you can do at home to save your food, or again, composting is a great idea. Yard trimmings, containers, packaging, non-durable goods, all the sorts. Plastic waste management. I shared this one because the amount that's being recycled now is actually growing. So this is one of the more uplifting ones, because as we're gaining more awareness about the trash crisis in the world today, and especially in our country, being the #1 country that's producing so much waste, we are starting to recycle a little bit more plastic. I live on Catalina Island, which is an island off the coast of Southern California, and our landfill is starting to become full. So one of my friends is putting together a public service announcement to raise awareness about the importance of recycling, and that if we don't actually start to recycle just on our little island, right, we have our own little landmass here, then we're not going to have any more room in our landfill. So there's becoming more of a talk around plastic and recycling in my hometown. Okie dokie, so that was a little bit of a teaser to hopefully get you excited or frustrated and discouraged enough with the problem to be invested in our workshop today. There's 3 things that you need to really get the most out of this. The first is presence. So thank you for being here. Those of you who are here live, those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for being present. Please don't go on Facebook right now or check your text messages or your emails, wash your dishes, things like that. Just give yourself this time to really absorb this information. Number 2 is positivity. As hard as it is, especially with a topic like this, keeping an open mindset, right? Everything that you're going to learn today can help you, even if you just put a couple of the tips into action. And then the third is participation, especially those of you who are here live. I see many of you have turned on your videos, which is awesome. For those of you who are here live, if you would like to turn on your video, it would be a pleasure to see your beautiful faces. And for all of you watching the recording, definitely reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or email and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so why does this matter? I'm a holistic nutritionist and a health coach, and I'm talking about sustainability. I wonder if sustainability improves our health, and the truth is it does, right? So a few of you are lovely clients, and I'm so glad that you're here. You are familiar with this. Many people are not. So this is the wheel of wellness, and there's lots of different parts of your health. When we think of health, usually people think of physical health, like exercise or the food that you eat, things like that. But environmental health is a really important part, and that's a key reason why we're focusing on sustainability. So if you agree that we are in connection with Mother Earth, with the environment that we live in, it makes sense that the more respect that we have for our environment and our surroundings, the less trash and waste that we produce, the more respect that we have for ourselves. And it usually goes hand in hand, right? Like if you're buying certain things that are healthier for the environment, oftentimes it's healthier for you as well. So the more waste that we produce, kind of has to do with like our levels of consciousness and even just like awareness, right? Just starting with that one fact over our own decisions in our life and how big of an impact that they make. I know a few of you are also in our book club this month and we're reading The Compound Effect. It's the same idea of sustainability, that small changes over time lead to big results. So as we're going through this, just remember that it actually does affect your health on a personal microcosm and then also on a global macrocosm, which is why we're talking about it. My goal is to help you find natural solutions to your health problems in all of the areas. I know there's a few people on here who are new, so I'm just going to go through my background story in case this is the first time that we've ever met. My name is Kyria, nice to meet you, and I have struggled with a wide variety of different health issues in my time. It really peaked when I had my first year being a public school teacher. I had depression, my emotions were a roller coaster, hormones up and down, I had disordered eating, and I totally depended on coffee. Like a huge, giant cup of coffee was my breakfast and my lunch, And then dinner, I would go home and I would just eat chocolate or ice cream or pizza or whatever. And as you can imagine, that didn't really help me to feel better in the long term. It led to a whole host of issues. So I decided that I wanted to explore health and nutrition more, and I got my master's in health education and holistic nutrition. And now I have my own practice helping others, many teachers also, to have a better, happier, healthier life. And I'm feeling really, really good. And now I spend lots of time in nature, and I just know that there's so much in connection between ourselves and the world around us, which is why this is one of my passions. So with whatever you're going through right now, if you're feeling totally great and all you really want to learn about is how to improve the earth more, awesome, you're in the right spot. But also if you are struggling with any sort of blood sugar issues, metabolic syndrome, gastrointestinal issues, low energy, fatigue, mental health issues, things like that, then everything that we're talking about will help the earth. It will also help you. And I'm super happy to help you with that journey as well. I will ask that you go ahead and save your questions until the end. There's a number of us here, and there's a lot that I want to share with you as far as how to make sustainable living easier for your life. We'll have plenty of time at the end for Q&A, and then for everybody watching the recording, go ahead and find me on Facebook. You can go facebook.com/KyriaHealth or KyriaHealth.com/chat. I would love to help you put these tips into action. So, defining sustainability. The term sustainability has many different definitions, and here's just a few of them. Sustainability is the ability to exist constantly. In the 21st century, it refers generally to the capacity for the biosphere and the human civilization to coexist, to live in a way that can be maintained at a certain rate or level. Sustainability also focuses on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. The concept of sustainability is composed of 3 pillars. The first is economic, the second is environmental, and the third is social. This is also known as profits, planet, people. For those of you who are here live, have you heard that term before? Profits, planet, people? No? Okay. It's oftentimes on like labels of kind of eco-friendly profits. But just to make it a little bit simpler, let's think of sustainability as the way that we live with less negative impact and with the intent of helping the next 7 generations. Alrighty, so as individuals, we can only do so much, right? So just by showing up, this is a huge, huge plus for you and for the earth. So thank you again for being here and for taking this time. The more of us making sustainable choices, the more impactful the results. In addition to making changes to our lifestyle, you can also choose to support companies making sustainable efforts as well. Most companies nowadays have some sort of sustainability goal in place at a corporate level. So you might want to check out company websites. There's a lot of really handy websites. One that I like is whogivesacrap.com. It keeps it good, it keeps it real. It shows you what companies are doing behind their marketing. And then it also helps you to know how you're voting with your dollar, right? So when you go out to buy certain things, like organic food, for instance, again, just going back to my hometown here, we had a little tiny grocery store. It barely had any organic options. And then the organic movement started to grow and grow. And now there's a bigger grocery store for one. And there's also way more organic options. So that's just a little microcosm of where I'm at. But on a global scale, these things are starting to become more popular as far as recycling and having more sustainable efforts. So voting with your dollar is one good tip. So helping the companies, people, profit, planet. So for the remainder of our time together today, I'm going to share a lot of tips on how you can live more sustainably. And our discussion topics are divided into 5 different categories. The first is energy, the second is water, the third is food, the fourth is waste, and the 5th is ecology. So I don't want you to stress yourself out by attempting too many changes at once. Every effort that you make is a step in the right direction. And for our lifestyles really to be sustainable, we want it to become habits. Right, so if you, again, have like a notepad or a pencil or your cell phone, your computer, something you can take some notes on. As we go through all these tips, I'd like for you to write down maybe 2 or 3 that really resonate with you, that you want to try and that you want to practice. Of course, you might want to try all of them, but then if none of them become a habit, it's not, quote unquote, sustainable, right? It's not sustainable for yourself or for the planet. So it's really best to pick just a couple that you'll bring into your everyday life. Okay, so LED light bulbs. Again, those of you who are here live, have you ever heard of the term LED light bulb? Yeah. Okay, cool. This is becoming more popular. So LED stands for light emitting diode, and this technology was developed around the 1960s, but it was super expensive before. As time went on with all technology, LED has become a lot more affordable, and it ends up being a great way to also reduce your bill. That ends up being good, healthy habits for everyone, right? Cheaper for you, better for the world. So LEDs are capable of turning about 70% of their energy into light, which makes them a lot more efficient than traditional light bulbs. Plus, they last 35 times longer, right? So it's like a double bonus whammy there. They last 35 times longer, which is good. That means less light bulbs for you to buy and then less waste in landfills. Additionally, by turning energy into light instead of heat, rather than using heat to generate the light, LEDs are able to operate at a significantly lower temperature than other types of light bulbs. So switching to LED light bulbs can make a big difference. So the next time one of your light bulbs go out, that's a perfect thing to try, is just go to the store and get an LED light bulb. Energy vampires are appliances or other plugged-in devices that draw energy or phantom loads when they are plugged in but not in use. Does anybody try this already, like unplugging things when you're not using them at home? Okay, a couple of people. I know it's like one more thing that can be hard to do, but anything that remains plugged in but is not in use can actually draw energy. So for example, products that require standby power to run, like clocks and coffee makers, when you charge devices for cell phones and laptops and they're just plugged in all the time, even when you're not charging things, it can actually take energy. So there's a complete list of quote unquote energy vampires, and if this is one of your habits that you want to start building, just let me know and I'll be happy to send you that huge long list, because there's some things that suck more energy than other things. But one way to curb energy vampires is to use smart power strips that shut off the power to your electronics when you're not using them. So sometimes that helps. That's what I do, because then you can just click the little switch, you know, if you're not using those lights or you're not using those chargers, whatever it is to help you out. All right. Having an energy audit done on your home is a great way to determine where energy and money can be saved. It does take an initial investment to have somebody come out and audit your home, but then it actually oftentimes ends up saving a lot more money down the road because they help you with your energy bill, right? Energy audits tell you how much energy your home and your business is losing, and it even provides cost-effective, sustainable solutions. Other benefits include reducing environmental damage and pollution and lowering energy bills, and also extending the lifespan of your current energy systems. If you have a business, for example, that could be a business write-off. So it's a little plug for you and plug for the environment. Windows. Anybody here live in an old house? Susan's laughing. So older windows, even though they're super cute and stylish, they are often less efficient at keeping inside air from escaping. So not only are new windows more energy efficient, but they can also help reduce noise pollution. And because windows can be a major expense, sometimes you can just replace a couple at a time. Yeah, or you can even just manage the gaps in between the windows and the doors with caulking or with weather stripping to prevent energy loss. So again, better for the environment, better for you, lower energy bill. Water. Again, going back to my hometown here, we live on an island and our water is very, very limited. So many of us have been practicing like 2-minute or less showers, or even just like bucket showers. When I was in high school, we had a severe water drought. This was a long time ago, and we had to take like bucket showers because the water was so low. All the hotels in town had to send over their linens, their towels and everything to be washed on the mainland, like over by Los Angeles. They couldn't even do their washing machines here. So this one definitely hits close to home to me, and I'm sure that many of you are already mindful of reducing your water consumption. But it really is such a precious resource, and there's a great documentary called Blue Gold that you can find online that dives into water and how there will be a point, most likely in the very near future, if we don't change our conservation sustainability efforts, where water, like pure clean water, becomes as valuable as gold. Fresh water is renewable and variable, but it's definitely a finite natural resource. Fresh water is such a limited resource because about 77% of it is frozen in glaciers and polar ice caps. Fresh water can only be replenished through the process of the water cycle. So to preserve water in your home, one of the best, easiest ways is to have a low flow shower head. And there's so many now that actually give you like a lot of power and pressure, but just with less water. And then even a shower timer. We have this little shower timer and it looks, just like a little timer with sand in it, and it has 2 minutes. So it gives you a nice visual, even though it is so nice just to stand in a nice hot shower for a while. Sometimes it helps with accountability. According to the Alliance for Water Efficiency, the average American shower lasts 8.2 minutes at an average flow rate of 2.1 gallons per minute. Another good way to reduce water consumption is just to replace outdated toilets, right? So when you have a newer toilet that uses less water per gallon for flush, it really helps to reduce water over time. Some people believe in if it's yellow, keep it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. But if you would rather just always flush, then definitely investing in a newer toilet could be a nice thing. So, plastic water bottles. Anybody want to take a guess at how much plastic water bottles Americans use every year? You can type in the chat box or just unmute yourself. This is a hard one. 50 billion. That's a lot. That's a lot of plastic water bottles. So Americans use an average of 50 billion plastic water bottles a year. Even though recycling efforts have definitely increased, National Geographic reports a whopping 91% of plastic is not recycled. I'm gonna say that again, 91% of plastic is not recycled. So while drinking water throughout the day is obviously a healthy habit and it's something that I encourage all the time, using disposable plastic water bottles is not sustainable. Instead, if you invest in a filtration system and use reusable water bottles or buy a water pitcher with a built-in filter, things like that are a really good idea. This is my water bottle. This is a ½ gallon, but honestly, these are so common now. You can find a reusable water bottle. It can clearly be a smaller one, and just use that, again and again. But 50 billion plastic water bottles a year just in America. It's a lot. I'm curious, those of you who are here, do all of you maybe just raise your hand if you have a reusable water bottle? Yeah. Okay, good. All my clients are yes. I know you do. Okay. So have you ever considered how much food goes into your trash? I know a few of you personally, and you're gardeners, so I'm sure that you're composting also. But for those who do a lot of cooking, food scraps can add up quickly. So unfortunately, when they're placed into plastic bags, this organic food waste doesn't decompose. And that's what a lot of people do, is that they put their food scraps or their leftovers or whatever into their trash bag. Their trash bag goes into their trash can outside. That goes into the trash truck. The trash truck takes it to the landfill puts it in the earth. So the good news is that you can compost from anywhere. Even if you just live in a little tiny studio apartment, there's really handy little tiny containers that you can put your waste into to help it decompose. All you need is a container to place food scraps in during the week, and then a composting area outside for excess food scraps when the bins fill up. When I lived in San Francisco, they had, a trash can, they had a recycle can, and they also had a compost can and a green waste can. Not everywhere is like San Francisco right now, but if you just have a little bit of outside area, then exactly what I just said. Some container could even be a Tupperware container that you put food scraps into. You can just bury a little hole and put it in there. You can also get these nice tumbling compost containers and different things like that, but it could be just as simple as putting it in the ground. So herbs, not only do herbs offer a host of health benefits, but growing fresh herbs is also one of the biggest ways to become more sustainable. If you think of all the plastic that you've used from, buying small bunches of herbs at the grocery store or like dried herbs in containers, this is a really fun way, and it's a cool, intimate way to add some flavor to your cooking and just to your everyday. When you just walk over to your little windowsill, again, if you just live in a little tiny house, it takes, maybe just this much space, just a couple of inches to grow your own basil or oregano or rosemary. These lovely food accents add not only a welcome burst of flavor to any meal, but they also fill your home with an array of lush, earthy scents. The 5 easiest herbs to start with that I recommend are basil, oregano, thyme, mint, and parsley. Many grocery stores sell potted herbs in the produce section, and all you need to do is just put them in a well-lit area and water them regularly. Oftentimes people will put them by their sink, and then you're washing some dishes, put some water in there, grab a couple of herbs, throw it into a salad. It's a really sweet way of boosting your home and also just boosting the environment. There is no better way to support local enterprises than buying locally grown produce. Not only do farmers markets provide the most sustainable and nutritious produce available, but when you buy local, you can help cut down on your carbon footprint by contributing to less waste and other energy that's used for transportation. When I was in university at UC Santa Barbara, we were in this class about biology and we were studying the food transportation. And it was so interesting to see how much food is actually grown in California, and most of it is shipped out, right? And like we'll ship out apples and then we'll bring apples in from other countries. So it's really interesting and quite perplexing at how our food transportation system works. Then you think about all the energy, the water, the electricity, the gas that goes into moving the food around. So if you have, an apple tree, or you have a garden, or you have some herbs in your kitchen, all the better if you're growing it yourself. But even just supporting local farmers markets are a really cool thing to do. And they're popping up in a lot more places. If you don't have a locals farmers market, like we don't have one where I live, there is a great resource called Farm Fresh to You. Like there's these CSA boxes that you can order. They're not available everywhere, but they are available a lot of places where they will bring local produce to you. And they just kind of drop it off at your house. So that's a really great resource. Shout out to Leslie for sharing that with me here on the island. And also, if you don't have access to that, a lot of times, even in Walmart and like Costco and things like that these days, these big box stores, a lot of them do have local produce or local foods, and they're starting to advertise that. Because the same thing like we talked about at the beginning of the workshop, when you vote with your dollar, and as more people are demanding more local, organic, sustainable produce and food goods, then these big companies and corporations are meeting that need. So it's a really good way to just look at the label and see where things are grown. Zero waste food shopping is a great way to keep unnecessary waste out of the landfills. When you reduce food-related waste by using your own reusable containers, purchasing items in bulk, and saying no to individually wrapped items, you can also even opt for purchasing in tin cans or paper-wrapped items rather than items with plastic packaging. So remember, you don't have to transition to zero waste overnight. It's really, really hard to have zero waste. It's an interesting challenge just to look at everything that you're throwing away and think, you buy yogurt in a plastic container, can you use that plastic container as Tupperware, right? Can you use it to organize some thread or nails or whatever, right? Trying to think of other ways to repurpose things with the whole reduce, reuse, recycle. Has anybody heard of those before, like those 3 R's? Okay, so that's we got the 3 P's, people, profit, planet. We got the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. That's really the process that we should be going through. So the first is reduce. For example, if there's an option to buy carrots in a plastic bag at the store, or you can just pick out your own carrots, right? And they aren't in a plastic bag, then that's the first step, reduce. So you just bring your own, hopefully reusable bag, put your carrots in that bag. The next step is reuse. So if you do buy carrots in a plastic bag, can you reuse that plastic bag for something, right? Can you kind of clean it out, wash it, use it like a Ziploc bag, something like that? And then the last step, ideally, is recycle. So there's so much hype around recycling, which is a good thing to do. But if you start to practice those other 2 first, you just reduce, and then you reuse, and then you recycle, that helps a lot, like over time, right? All those small decisions over time. One fun tip is just to start with that. Like when you go to the grocery store, they have those little plastic bags in abundance. You would think that they're just falling from the sky to put your produce in, like your apples or oranges or citrus or whatever. But you can buy reusable bags to just put those things in instead of using the bags at the grocery store. Alrighty. This can be a little bit tricky, but it helps a lot with the proper recycling. If you've ever looked upside down at something, you might see that there's a little number inside of a triangle. Those numbers correlate to how they're recycled. So if you're not sure what can and cannot be recycled, you're definitely not alone. A good rule of thumb is following the recycling guide. So plastic can usually be recycled in the mixed recyclable sections if they're numbered 1 through 7 on packaging. It's almost like they're trying to make it hard to recycle, right? It's a little bit confusing. But if they're numbered 1 through 7 on the packaging, cardboard and white paper can be recycled in the paper section, right? So especially now with everything that's going on in the world, all these things that people are getting shipped to their home from online stores, all those boxes can definitely be recycled. Or better yet, they could be reduced if you can shop locally, or you can reuse them, right, for storage or whatnot. But then you can always recycle them. Last step. Caps, paper with wax, plastic bags, plastic film, and styrofoam should not be used in the recycling bins. Food must be washed off before it can be recycled. So that's something that is really tricky and that a lot of people skip this step. But if you buy food that comes in a plastic container and there's some food in there, it needs to be washed before it can go into the recycling. Otherwise, it gets everything else dirty, and then oftentimes they just have to throw away that whole bag. If you do recycle at home, but then say you had like a can of beans and it was a dirty can of beans, you put it in the recycling bin, then that whole bag might be contaminated with beans and then they can't use it. There's some counties, depending on where you live, that are better at that than others, but it is, it's kind of a catch-22 because then you need to take water and time and energy to wash those things, and then you can put it in to be recycled. But as much as you can, just making sure things are clean in there. When in doubt, just contacting your local trash company. I don't know if you've done that before, but that can be really helpful just to see what they do recycle and what they don't, because different municipalities have different rules. But the easiest one is the plastic, number 1 through 7. Alrighty, so even when we reuse plastic bags, they're still wasteful, right? We know that. Sometimes, again, you just have to use it or something happens. Different countries are different with this, right? I was living in Thailand for a while, and they're a little bit behind on the recycling or the sustainability mindset. So if you would get something to go, or even sometimes something to eat at a restaurant, they would put like the curry or the pad thai inside of a plastic bag, inside of a styrofoam box, inside of another plastic bag, sometimes 2 plastic bags, and there's almost this like sense of pride around having plastic bags and styrofoam because that is a newer thing for them. But in places like where we live, many of us in America, it's starting to become more well known not to use plastic bags. So definitely being mindful that plastic bags do take years and years to decompose, and they oftentimes wind up in landfills or waterways and oceans. So anybody want to guess how many plastic bags Americans use each year? Saw that Jenny said before, the water bottles, a lot. It's double, in case anybody remembers what it was for the water bottles. It's double that amount. Anybody? Pop quiz, I know, a lot of pressure. Yes, yep, 100 billion plastic bags a year, which requires 12 million barrels. Awesome. Awesome, Jen. Requires 12 million barrels of oil to manufacture. So 12 million barrels of oil to manufacture. Americans, just America, use an average of 100 billion plastic bags a year. So the whole thing, like, I'm just one person, how much of a difference can I make? It's that idea, right? That meditation of being a drop in the ocean and rippling out. So as many of you, I know from working with you, you're making these positive changes in your life, and you're starting to see your husband benefiting from it, or your family eat healthier, or your community maybe come together in a different way, connecting with different people. And as you do that, if you're that one, person that brings your own reusable bag to the grocery store, or your own little reusable bag for the produce section, other people will see that, and it will start to be like a wave effect, right? Like you'll be the benefit and the positive peer pressure there. According to Waste Management, only 1% of plastic bags are returned for recycling. So plastic bottles, we got 91% are not recycled. Plastic bags, only 1%. Another sad statistic, 100,000 marine animals are killed by plastic bags annually. So just to nail this point home, definitely stocking up on reusable bags and getting in the habit of using them. I bet we all have at least one reusable bag at home, and I bet we all have forgotten at some point to bring that bag to the store with us. I have been there too. So the tricky part is just like taking that bag. There are some really cool ones that are so tiny it can fit in your purse. That's what helps me, because sometimes I forget, even if we're all trying, sometimes we just forget. So having it, putting one in your car, putting one in your purse, putting one in your office, just having it all over and using it is really, really a great way to go. Okie dokie. So thrift store shopping. Anybody here ever gone thrift store shopping or enjoyed that? Peace fingers, yeah, lots of smiles. So thrift store shopping is a fun way to reuse clothing and furniture, decorations, housewares, rather than contributing to waste production by shopping new. It's the ultimate way to reduce, reuse, recycle. Shopping at thrift stores can also help support local charities and nonprofits. So the next time you need a side table, or you're looking for some new art, or you want some new clothes, maybe just check out the thrift store. It's like the people, planet, profits, right? If you can support a local nonprofit, if you can support the planet by reducing and reusing and recycling, and you can even support yourself, because oftentimes it's pretty good things at a nice discount bargain. And you might even be inspired to DIY some project or do something cool with things that you find there. Along with thrift stores, even garage sales. I went to a garage sale this past weekend, and there were so many cool things there. A lot of things, honestly, like brand new, still in their packaging. I got this shirt. Hey, you like my shirt? I got this shirt at the garage sale. It was like a couple of bucks. So there's just really cool things that you can find, and you also get to meet new people. I know that right now it might be a little bit tricky to go out and do those things, but definitely reducing, reusing, recycling, saving some money, and supporting local charities. Quadruple win. Did you know that a single plastic toothbrush takes over 400 years to decompose? That's a lot of years for one toothbrush, especially considering that you're supposed to replace your toothbrush, or if you use electronic toothbrushes, those caps, you're supposed to replace them pretty frequently too. Over 1 billion toothbrushes end up in landfills every year in North America. Bamboo toothbrushes are a great alternative. They're 100% biodegradable, and they're antimicrobial, which means they don't harbor any nasty bacteria. You can even buy them oftentimes in compostable packaging, or even bulk buy them for the whole year. Even just swapping and upgrading and using like single swabs and cotton pads, you can buy things that are actually washable, so that way you can reuse them again and again. A good example is like towels, right? Like oftentimes for many of us at home, we probably have reusable hand towels, right? Some people who are super on the sustainability vibe travel around with their own washcloth or their own little towel that they have in their purse, so that way when you go out, you don't have to use all the paper towels. Toothbrushes can be a hard one for people, because many people do like using the electronic toothbrushes. But if you are already not using that and you're using just a manual one, definitely switching over to bamboo toothbrushes is a great idea. Or if you don't want to do the toothbrush, just try thinking of other things, like I said, like the washcloth or cotton pads or things like that you can actually wash and reuse. Again, good for you, because you only have to buy it once, you get to wash it, you save money, and also good for the planet too. Okie dokie, paper towels, napkins, plates, and cups, if they're paper or plastic, they can be super wasteful. They do make cleanup easy, but it's at what cost? It only takes a few minutes to wash a dish, and spills wipe up really, really easily with reusable cloths. According to the Paperless Project, 254 million tons of paper towels are used each year. Here's an astounding fact. We flush the equivalent of 270,000 trees down the drain each day, and nearly 10% of that is attributable to toilet paper. So looking for recycled toilet paper is a sustainable game changer, and they even have toilet paper made out of bamboo, which is a much more sustainable and renewable alternative to just paper. When things are going through recycling, it's definitely clean. If you think like, oh, recycled toilet paper sounds gross, it's totally clean. You can look up videos and see how it's done, but it's definitely a good alternative. And bamboo toilet paper super soft. You wouldn't even know the difference. And oftentimes it's a really, really similar price as well. It goes back to voting with our dollar, right? So just being mindful of that. You probably don't want to cut out all of your toilet paper, right? Some places just, you don't really use toilet paper, but like in Thailand, there were so many different spots where they didn't have toilet paper, but they did have like a squirt gun kind of thing. So that is always an option for people who want to be super sustainable and totally cut out toilet paper. But at least with the bare minimum, like paper towels, right? And buying recycled, there's so many easy ways of doing that. I'm usually that weird person, not recently, because there clearly hasn't been a lot of parties happening recently, but in the past with gatherings of family or friends, if there's a bunch of dishes, right? Like just help wash the dishes, or if people want to use paper or plastic, I'll just vote to, hey, I can do the dishes, or we can all, tag team and do the dishes together, turn on some fun music. It takes 10, 15 minutes, and it's so much better for all parties involved. Alrighty, so our final category here has to do with ecology, and ecology deals with the relations of organisms to one another and to their physical surroundings. There are many ways to help support your local ecology and ecosystems. One of the most popular ways is to fill a bird feeder with native bird seed. You can also look into keeping bees or installing a solitary beehive. Solitary beehives are human-made insect hotels you can think of, and they act as a place for pollinating species to take residence, even just having pollinator-friendly plants, right? So if you could attract bees and butterflies and different pollinators to your garden, that can be a wonderful gift for them. Another way to support your local ecology is in your garden, like I was just mentioning. To save the ecosystems in your area, the answer is simple: grow native plants. So if you look into native wildflowers, trees and shrubs and vines that are suitable to your environment, and then don't forget to plant plenty of pollinating species to help the bees, butterflies, and other insects. I know we have at least a couple pollinator-friendly people here and gardeners. How's that going? Are you seeing butterflies? Are you seeing bees? Are you seeing anything cool? Thumbs up? Yeah. It's fun, right? You get to see beautiful insects and your flowers are blooming and your plants. Cool, cool. Alrighty, so tons of different, I have a whole list of resources for those of you who are really interested in the literature behind this, or maybe some more of those like websites that I mentioned. Definitely feel free to reach out to me. And for those of you who are watching the recording, just find me on Facebook or send me an email and I can send you all of the resources if you want to dive into this more. Jen says you have bees on your sunflowers. Perfect, I'm sure they're so happy. Okay, so recap. I saw a few of you taking notes. If you didn't write down anything as we just went through this, go ahead and write down, let's say, 2 things that you are going to try this week. You don't have to commit to doing it forever, but go ahead and write down 2 ideas that you like, that you feel like, yeah, you could do and you can add into your life. So we got the Wheel of Wellness, being mindful of health in all the different types of ways beyond physical, and we're really zooming in on environmental. But as we went through this workshop, you can probably start to see how this sustainability is environmental. It's also social, right? It's also political. It's also mental. It is also physical. So everything is interconnected there. Sustainability, hopefully you have a better idea of what that word means. All of your different efforts, supporting them, and just taking small baby steps. Doing what you can, not getting overwhelmed or feeling like you have to start making 0 trash, but just making every effort that you can, and just starting to have more awareness and spreading that around to your loved ones. Maybe doing a light bulb swap and trying LED light bulbs. Seeking out those energy vampires by just unplugging things or using a strip and turning that off. Getting an energy audit on your home or your business or your building. Seeing how old your windows are, and best thing is swap and upgrade to new windows, or you can just do a little bit of caulking or some weatherproofing tape around them. Using less water. Switching to reusable water bottles. Composting at home. Growing your own herbs. Using farmers markets, or at least trying to shop local if you don't have farmers markets. Adopting the 0 waste mentality, learning how to recycle in your area, saying no to plastic bags, bringing your own bags and also remembering to use them, shopping at thrift stores, eco-friendly hygiene, saying no to paper or plastic products like you know, silverware and plates and stuff like that. Being one with nature, and growing what you sow. So that was a lot of information. Awesome, awesome. I hope that we learned a couple of things there. I'd love to go around and share one thing that you want to try, just one thing of all the many tips, and then one thing that you learned today. So I'm going to call on Lisa first. Do you mind sharing? You knew I was going to call on you.
So I think I was made more aware of, I think I've heard this before, but unplugging devices that are not in use. Mm-hmm. I got plenty that I could just unplug. They're plugged in and there's no real reason for it. And then, I try to do this already, but repurposing items, just making, using things in different ways. So that's what I will try and keep on doing.
Awesome. Great. Susan?
Okay, I want to watch the movie The Blue Gold. I think that would be good for me to do. And I am hearing you on the bag thing. I am a religious bag taker to the store, but those days are kind of on the shelf here in California because of the virus thing. No one wants to handle bags from other people's stuff, so that's been an issue. But I'm you know, still there with that. So, and I like the bee thing, and I want to maybe try a bee hive thing. We have bees where I live, and I want to support them, and Jen's good for information on that. She's been good, so that's been helpful. So I love the sustain out here in Joshua Tree. A lot of people are kind of that way already. We just need to refine it a little more. The problem with the composting is the goddamn bugs, the flies. So I don't do a lot of that because we have bug issues and vermins and stuff. So it's something I need to work on. Be something I'd be interested in.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Leslie, I'm going to call on you. I know that you have some composting tips. Do you have any responses to that?
Jen.
Yeah, we can hear you. Maybe.
No, I can't hear.
Leslie, maybe I saw you just chatted to me. Maybe if you have any tips on composting without the insects or the vermin, maybe you can chat that to me since we can't hear you for some reason. And if you want to chat something, if you learned anything new, I know that you're the queen of sustainability. Let's see, Jen, with all those flowers behind you.
So Susan, I just want to tell you, like, that whole bag thing in California drives me nuts too, but then I just walk up and go, can you just put all that back in my cart? And then I take my cart outside and then I put my stuff in my bags myself. And that way it's actually better for me because, like, I can put the things like, oh, this goes into the pantry, this goes into the kitchen, this goes into, you know, like the freezer or whatever. So it makes it a little bit easier for me. One of the things that I need to work on, and this, like, I do okay, but it's the plastic bags, because we go to the farmer's market and we get like the spare lettuce, but then we put them in plastic bags for the chickens, and I need to come up with a cloth bags or whatever to like store that. And I'm kind of, because I know they get kind of gross because you, whatever. Anyway, it's a big thing, but I'm going to work on that. That's my goal. And then the other thing is I love paper towels. I'm a horrible person. So that is going to be something that I've been looking at, the, like, where you can buy like the cloth paper towels and you wrap them up. And I think my husband's probably going to have the biggest like poo-poo about that, but that's going to be one of the things that I do is like the cloth paper towels. Like, I've seen it. It's probably in my Amazon shopping cart right now. I may just go and take care of that. So those are the things I'm going to do.
Awesome. There's a great TED Talk. I know a lot of you are familiar with TED Talks, and there's literally a TED Talk on how to use one paper towel, like when you're out, you know, and you're washing your hands. And it's this really popular TED Talk on, he has a whole strategy. So I'll see if I can find that TED Talk and share it. Let's see. Leslie says a tumbling composter does work well, but once it is filled, you have to wait for the compost to cook. So that could be something to look into, Susan, a tumbling composter. Francis says, about plastic water bottles, our water tastes awful, so most of us around here buy water. I have a filter, but even with that, it is only good for use in our tea or coffee. Drinking water must be purchased. Any suggestions to be more sustainable? Yeah, that's a great question, Francis. Yeah, if you don't have good water, then that can be hard if drinking out of the tap doesn't work. You could definitely buy your own water filter. There's a gazillion. You know, Brita is a really popular one. It's not the most effective, but there's a lot of alternatives to that. The one that I recommend is Berkey, B-E-R-K-E-Y, Berkey water filters, and you can go to their website and they have a whole bunch of different sizes. They have little tiny ones and then they have huge ones. The reason why I like that is because it stands on your counter, so it doesn't use any electricity or energy. You just dump water in the top and then it filters down on its own. Francis says water stations still use the local water and just fill it. Yeah, right. So that's why I definitely advocate for filtering your own water at home. You can, you know, get a whole house filter or like reverse osmosis and then remineralize it yourself. Or Berkey is a nice in between. You say you can't drink filtered water and just filter it?
But the filtered water tastes just as bad as the unfiltered water. You can only use it in tea and coffee. If it's got enough flavor, it covers the taste. But if you want to drink water, you have to purchase it.
Mm-hmm. Have you purchased your own water filter at home?
I have a water filter.
And it's not strong enough, it sounds like.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I would recommend trying the Berkey, B-E-R-K-E-Y, or maybe you need another water filter. You could always try boiling the water. That helps with some things, but if it really is just pourable water, it sounds like you need a stronger water filter.
It's not just me, it's the whole town.
Yeah, I believe you.
Yeah, sort of the same situation, yes.
Yeah. It kind of goes back to the wheel of wellness, right? Like you have all these different areas and you obviously don't want to sacrifice your own health for the sake of plastic water bottles. But if you can buy a stronger water filter, then that's a good option for you, because oftentimes
Right.
if you have a good water filter, it's even better than plastic bottled water. Jen, what was that? What was the Zac Efron?
Down to earth.
Down to earth.
Yep.
So that's a water documentary, right? Or there was like a season on it about water.
It was episode 2 on Netflix.
Cool.
That talked about water and the importance of water. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Francis, we'll find that and we can share a link to that also in our Facebook group so you can see that. But that sounds like it's one area to focus a little bit more on. Did you learn anything else, or is there anything that you want to practice besides the water bottles?
Well, I'm trying to grow some of my own vegetables, but when it's 120 degrees, it's very difficult. Obviously, I live out in the desert like Jennifer does. I think it was Jennifer who said she was in Joshua Tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to buy some new light bulbs, so I'll get the LED ones.
Okay. Awesome. That's a good start. Perfect.
can I just say something, Francis? The thing that has saved most of my gardens is just shade cloth. Like, I mean, I know it sounds like ridiculous, like you plant vegetables to like have them have sunlight, but like in the desert, it's just too strong. So like we're like, when I first started, I always cover with shade cloth, you know, so most of the time, because it still lets light in. And then like once we get into the cooler parts of the year, then I just take it off. Like right now, mine is pretty much uncovered, but my plants are also huge right now. Like I have sunflowers that are almost 10 feet tall. I have a zucchini plant right now that's probably like 3 feet across, you know, so they're big enough and they're established enough that they don't need that protection anymore. But I always put shade cloth.
Right. Good idea. Thank you.
Good idea. Let's see. Lisa said we have a cooler and refill 5-gallon bottles at the water station. Yep, that's a great option if you have that. Being mindful about animal food consumption for the planet. Definitely being mindful of the quality of animal food, right? So if you are, same thing with fruits and vegetables or super processed vegan or vegetarian food products, being mindful, like we talked about at the beginning, of which companies you're supporting. So if you can get local, if you can get from the farmers, if you can get grass-fed, the better the animals are treated, the better for the environment, the better for you too. So it goes the same thing though for fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, all of that as well, and all the products and everything that we're talking about. Sarah, we haven't heard from you yet.
Hey, excuse me. It's inspiring for sure. This is, a conversation that I have with my students during the school year. We have a little unit in our textbook, and I love talking about this. There's actually a town in Japan that's completely zero waste, and they have every home separates their recycling into 25 different categories, and they wash all of their recycling before they, put it in the recycling bin or whatever. So it's pretty inspiring and cool. But I feel like I should go to the farmer's market this weekend. I haven't been in a while, and Pete and Stevie, it's always like a nice little treat for us to get out of the house. So I'm thinking of doing that. I've been wanting to for a couple weeks now. My sister got rid of paper towels, and she's just been using like microfiber cloths, and it seems to work pretty well. And but I'm like Jen, I love paper towels, so but I'm gonna try to be better at that. And then I'm super excited to check into this whogivesacrap.com. So that was something I learned about that I want to check out.
Environmental Working Group, right? EWG. A number of you probably checked that out. That's another good website too. All right, I think we heard from everybody here. Anybody want to add anything else that you want to try or that you learned? Okay, good. I think we got everyone. So thank you so much for joining. A pleasure to have you all. Thank you all for those of you watching the replay too. Definitely jump into our Facebook group and feel free to reach out to me too for a free call. We can talk about sustainability or any health challenges that you are going through. I would be happy to help you practice these, especially if you didn't get the chance to share your ideas on our call live and you're watching the recording. You can just jump on a call together, you and I. And thanks again. That's it. That's the close of our workshop. Thank you all for being here, for showing up for yourself, for showing up for your family, and for the planet. It definitely makes a big, big impact. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Ciao. Bye.